think we're just waiting on one more possibly, and we'll get started. Okay, good. Lizeth, can you confirm if there's any settings or anything that I need to change on my end? I did hit record, so hopefully that helps with the transcription and everything.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just signing in for a bit. I believe I talked to a couple of our designers, and I believe the sheet setup was explaining a previous, probably in a monthly training. So I
It
think there's
was.
some,
Yep.
yeah, so there's somehow aware and understanding of what this is, but
Okay.
I asked them to be here and go through the presentation and all of that just to be safe.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And it will be the same process, but we'll
Hmm.
actually be able to apply it to this project. And I did want to kind of go through the folder structure and file setup since it's a little bit different on this project, just so
Gotcha.
everybody's aware where everything's at. Um, so it might not take the full hour, but it might just,
Okay, great. And
especially if people are.
and yeah,
Okay.
just as an FYI, I think Jason asked me to invite Alessandro and Alexander to the call. I'm not sure if they're also going to be part of this project, but so you probably
Just okay.
Alessandra and Alexander don't get lost on what JC is going to explain, but some of us are going to be part of it. So if we take the hour to do so, I think it's okay on my end.
Okay. All right. Yeah, basically we're going to go through the project file setup for this particular project, but we're going to go through plain production tools and how to use a template with viewports to cut sheets. So that's probably the part that Jason wanted um, Alex and Alessandro to be involved with. So that'll be the second part of this. Um, I'll try to review the first part pretty quickly just to give the team an overview of where these files and everything are at and the files we're going to be using to cut the sheets. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, just interrupt me, whatever you feel comfortable with, because this is, not a formal presentation. We can ask questions along the way as well. Um, so, okay. So first off, for this particular project, we have our project standards. There is a reference template that's been referenced. This is the entire project reference template. Um, if anybody is unfamiliar with reference templates, we do have some presentations on that I can link in the chat. Um, Basically, the main civil designer would handle any additions or changes in this reference template because it does impact the entire project. So what this does is allow us to push new parts, new display styles, label styles, those types of things to all drawings. Um, and then inside of each work package, we will also have a reference template specifically for that work package that references the overall, but also allows us to have an independent reference template if there's something specific to, let's say, work package F that doesn't necessarily apply to everything else. So it's sort of a two-piece reference template setup on this. There's a title block for each work package, or there will be. I basically concentrated on work package F, and once everybody gets comfortable with that, I'm going to go ahead and populate the rest of these. For now, we're just going to be looking at work package F. And so we've got base files in here that are basically blank with just a little bit of GIS information in our SPSXC drawing. All of the drawings will start with work package, whatever work package you're in, underscore, and then our typical naming convention. I tried to leave off the project number just because these files were getting pretty long and we already have lots of folders to dig through. Um, Civil folder has basically a blank sheet drawing that you can start your drawings from. There's a blank sheet set that you can populate with that information. There's one overall sheet in here if we want to end up naming this once we get our preliminary sheet list together. this plan notes is, and I'll just show you what it is. This is referenced into every sheet in Work Package F. So if there are consistent notes that need to go on every sheet, you would make that change here. It's a block. It's been extracted into the drawing sheet, and it will be reflected throughout. So that's an easy way to keep track of all of the notes. And this sheet cut template, this is what we're actually going to use for cutting either a plan sheet or a plan and profile sheet. So the, this is one of the tabs, and then the other tab is the overall plan sheet that doesn't have the profile below it. So just to give you an idea what's in there so far, I did create an exhibit sheet that's just an overall view of work package F with the aerial behind it and a sheet set for that if we have to do exhibits. And then the same thing with general. There's a general sheet set file. There's a cover sheet, an abbreviation sheet, and a legend sheet already created. So any general sheets can be started with one of these sheets and then added to the sheet set file. So that's what we have so far as file and folder setup for work package F. So any questions on that so far? Okay. Data shortcut has been created for work package F as well, and reference to the base files. So basically everything is ready to get started. So what we want to talk about next is how can we use the plan production tools to create plan views or plan and profile sheets, depending on what improvements we're going to be making. Um, Before I do that, I want to touch on what these work packages mean. And I know there's a lot of emails that have been floating around. This is the same content. This is the same list that breaks down the work packages, but just to give you an idea which areas are covered for each work package. If it's just one, it doesn't have anything underneath it. But if it's multiple, then we've listed that underneath each work package neighborhood. So these are the different work packages. These are our drawing name abbreviations. I do not know if we're going to have erosion controller landscape, so those will probably be removed. Right now, this is the folder structure and file naming that we have set up to follow our naming convention. Um, and this is what it means. Basically, work package, A, B, C, through L. Site plan, SX means existing 2D line work, C means civil. So this is just a breakdown of what the naming convention means and then what contents is going to go inside those drawings. Same thing with the new base files, naming convention, what's in there, how's the information being shared through data shortcuts. So I'll post this in the ACC Docs project as well. And as mentioned, each work package has its own data shortcuts, its own title block, its own reference template, its own sheets, and base files. And then just typical notes of things to, remember as we're working on drawing files. Obviously, we're going to be using our HS styles because right now it's just Hazen working on these drawings. Eventually, we may have other people working on them, from what I understand, but for right now, it's just us. And just a couple of notes about, UCS staying at world and using D-view twist to rotate. Um, any XREF should be overlaid with relative pathing, never attached. And then, labeling 3D entities using our display styles instead of just generic M leaders. File naming, work package, A, B, C, D, and then underscore civil, and the numbers. So this number convention or naming convention for the sheets, that's going to come from our sheet list, which we don't have developed yet with the numbering. That's something that I'll have to talk to the project manager about, or Jason will. And once that's ready, we'll put the link in here. But I think we could start creating these sheets using the format that I'm going to show on the process for creating the plan using the plane production tools. And then if we need to rename, we can do that as well. And then each work package has its own set of base files, each has its own folder structure, DST files, which we have already mentioned. Adding plan view labeling in the individual sheets, the profiles can be in the SP-PP base file. So this is all our typical setup and how we would label our information. And then there's some reminders on working with Civil 3D and ACC docs, but I also dropped a PDF specifically for that on ACC docs as well. It goes through what version to use, how to select your projects, how to check if your project has issues. You use a reference explorer to, basically pull up the file and figure out where your broken links or issues are. They'll highlight in red. Talked a little bit about how we don't open drawings from within other drawings or edit an extra from within a drawing. Don't open or create a new drawing from Sheet Set Manager. Basically, we just open everything from the Start tab. We talk a little bit about, any references that you're going to add to your drawing. Even if it's just temporary, you want to make sure those live on ACC docs. And if you have any questions about where to put those, you can definitely reach out to me and I can help with that. We also talk about when you're working with data shortcuts, just make sure that um, you're seeing this cloud and it says ACC docs with Hazen and Sawyer. That means you're working on the web and it's the correct path. So that's important to make sure of as you're adding and sharing content from that data shortcuts. And then the last thing is, of course, sheet set. We'll just be using regular sheet set manager for this. We will not be using sheet set manager for web. So this is the protocol for working with that and options for rename, renumber if we need to do that. And this is obviously information that we've given presentations on before, but it's always good to review that. And it is in the project on the web under project standards right here. And that same document with the base file setup will also be saved in that same location. So any questions about that part before we move forward?
Where is that document saved at? Jesse, sorry, I missed that.
This one?
Yeah.
This one will be in the same location as the best practices, and it's going to be just inside project files under 0 project standards.
Gotcha.
So I'll
Okay.
create a PDF and put it in here as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So that everybody has access to it. And probably I'll put this recording in the same location so people can revisit that, or if we have additional people that get added, we can review the overall setup or the process for creating sheets. So
Yeah,
okay.
that will work. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that's basically background information, just looking at the bigger picture of what we have set up as far as drawing files, folder structure, and like I said, best practices. So the next thing we're going to do is use our SOP to go through the process of creating sheets. Now, you're welcome to create sheets individually, just by opening a drawing and doing a save as and, zooming in and out to your viewport or whatever you want to do. But this process allows for an automatic creation of sheets with views, alignments, basically allowing you to produce multiple drawing files and add them to a sheet set in a simple process. So I will put the link to this SOP in this chat as well, so everybody has access to it. And if you have any questions as we're going through this, just stop me and we'll chat about it as we're going through it. So first thing we need to do is basically create a sheet template. And basically what that sheet template looks like is, I'll just open it and show it to you. We're opening everything from the Start tab. So project standards, templates, oh, sorry, civil, sheet cut, okay? And what this does is open a drawing that has a layout tab for plan only and a layout tab for plan and profile. So you can choose either. If you're not doing a sheet that has a profile, you can choose plan only. Right now, this is set to 1 inch equals 50, but we can change it to 1 inch equals 20 if you want to zoom in further. The plan and profile sheets are set to 1 inch equals 20 to show more detail. And that's reflected in our scales and in our title block. So basically, these sheets are set up for us to use as a template to create additional sheets. So that's what the template looks like. Currently, we have our aerial XREF. We have our base files XREF in here and the plan notes that were mentioned, plus the title block, obviously. Not sure why it's missing that logo. I'll go find that. It's odd. So the plan notes are right here. And basically, if there's something that needs to be on all sheets, you would just update it in that plan notes base file. Obviously, you can put notes individually on this sheet if they differ from what we have shown there. But that's just an easy way to update it across the board. And then we have our key map up here that shows background information. Right now we're showing alignment data that I'm going to turn off. Freeze those in our key map. So that just gives you an idea of where we're at. This client had some special requests about locations for digital stamps and other information. So this is laid out per our example. You can see the content that's shown in the background there. That's actually on a def points layer, so it's not going to show up, but it's just giving you an indication like what each area is for, but it won't print. Like if I do a print preview, you won't see that in the background. Okay. And I was going to go through this attribute block is a little bit different. Their attribute block had a lot more information in it, and I wanted to simplify what we're shown on this drawing package and make universal changes without having to use too many fields of the sheet set. So I kept the sheet set fields to a minimum on this one. And so basically that's what the template contains. And it's just saved as a DWT file. So in order to use the plane production tools, you've got to have an alignment to start with. So I just am going to use the force main as an example of an alignment. Your alignment could be center line of road, center line of a utility, anything really. But in order to do the view frames, we're going to use this alignment. So the first step is to go up to create view frames. And since this is the only alignment in here, that's the one that's going to select. We want to do the whole station range. So we're just going to hit next. This is where we want to make sure we only hit plan. Even if you're creating a plan and profile sheet, you don't want to use plan and profile because what that does is create individual profiles in every single drawing. And we want our profiles to come from the SP-PP drawing. So we're always going to do plans only. And we're going to go along the alignment. And this is where you would select the template. So you can tell that I've selected the template that we created here. And I have two options. I could do plan only or I could do plan and profile. So if I was to do plan only and then hit next, you can name this whatever you'd like. I'm just going to call this plan only for this particular exercise. I'm going to name it next counter, start with 101 and say insert. And again, you can name this however you want. I like to get the sheet naming convention in there to help with keeping track of everything so I don't have to go back and rename anything. But it's really up to you. You can let it default. So we're going to hit next. This is important. The positioning snap station value, you want to put in 50 or 100 here so that it doesn't try to throw a match line at a really odd station location. So 50 is pretty standard and sometimes 100. This will default again. You can name your match line whatever you like. You don't have to go through this detail because you can change it later. I just prefer to save myself a couple of steps here. So we let the rest of that default and say create frames, and you'll see what it does here. And you'll be able to rotate this. So if you want overall plan sheets without the profile, these basically are going to take up an entire sheet of plan views. So that's one way you can do it. You can shift these around if you want to. Got the match line information in it. When we create the sheets, it will plug it into a sheet set, either one that we already have created, which would be my recommendation because of the fields in the title block, and it's going to populate the sheet drawing information automatically once we actually create the sheets. Right now, we've just created the view frames so far. So that's one way to do it. You could, and I'm just going to back up a little bit here. For the sheets that we're going to be doing the plan and profile on, we can do the same process, plans only. And I'm going to say plan and profile. And what that is giving us that empty viewport for our profile view. So just going to name this and profile, view frame. Okay, snap to our station, 50. I am going to name our match line with the same process. Okay, so the same setup, create view frames. And again, this is what we get. We can go through here and make adjustments before we create the sheets. We can do this, we could do this. Basically, we have a lot of options here to lay these sheets out before we go and create the actual sheet. So I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit more, maybe rotate it a little bit more. Okay, so you can do this process. You can straighten them out a little bit, however you want to do it. Just as long as these match lines stay within the frame that you're working on. If you try to shift it beyond that, you'll notice that it stops. So you'll have to adjust the frame locations before you're allowed to adjust the match lines, but you can adjust them if you want to. Okay. So basically, this is what our view frames are currently and where our match lines are currently. We haven't created the sheets yet, but it used that template to give us our limits for our plan view. So any questions on this before we create sheets? Okay. So I'm going to hit save here. And then the next step is create sheets. And we're going to select our view frame group. We want to create all of them. We only want to put one layout per new drawing. And here's the layout name. So I'm just going to make the layout name match the naming convention we've used so far. Okay. Choose the north arrow. So we definitely want a north arrow. We're going to use our north arrow here and hit next. And it says new sheet set. So we could create a new sheet set, but I want to add it to an existing sheet set that I already have. And again, the reason for that is because the fields that we're using in our title block are already created. So I'm going to use work package F civil. I'm going to put them in the work package F civil sheet set file that we've already created. Now, this sheet file naming, that's important as well because this is actually how it's going to name your drawing. So again, going to use that same format we've been using, and it's going to start with 101. Okay. And then it's saying sheet storage location. It should put it in the same location as your sheet set, but it's always good to check. And we are in the work package F and civil folder. So we're going to hit next. It's going to make us select something, right? It's going to put the alignment in there, and that's okay. But let's make sure we uncheck any of these other options here. We don't want those to be selected. We just want the alignment because we have to have the alignment because that's what the view frame is tied to, but nothing else should be selected here. Okay. And then we just hit create sheets and it says to complete this process, your current drawing will be saved, and we're okay with that. You'll see it go through the process and it's going to pull up the panorama and show us it creating the sheets. It's going to say that there's a DST file and it's created these sheets with absolute path. If I go over to the sheet, you'll see it right here. So I can change this to, let's just call this force main, okay? And you'll see we've got our sheets in here. Now this is where, we can go in here and say station 1, 2, 4 plus 50 or whatever it is, okay? And basically it ties the sheet drawing in with the match line. So in this case, it's going to be 550. So I'll rename that. But this is where you'll make those changes once you have your sheets created. And then we would go to the Start tab in the Civil folder, and we will see our drawing sheets in here that have been created. So it saves you some time. It sets up the viewport. It puts the match line in there with the adjacent sheets, which now we're missing stuff because I've messed up the folder. But basically, had I done that template without the missing xref, that would have come up with our plain view right there. So I'll look into that. But basically, that's giving us, yeah, it broke. I needed to reset my xrefs, but I could try to reload it, but it's likely gonna make me repath it. I'll fix that. So basically that's the process, and it would come in with the title block, all your xrefs, the alignment with the stationing and the match lines. So I'll get the template fixed to make sure all this pathing works correctly. But are there any questions on the process for creating the sheets, the view frames and the sheets? Okay. Let me go through here and set this. And again, you can use this and just do a save as and create your individual sheets if you'd like. Obviously, as we're adding content to these base files, they're going to start showing up in our key map. So we can just come over here and freeze or unfreeze the information that we want to get rid of. In this particular case, we got some view frames. We're going to freeze that information. And then we've got match lines coming from the SP-PP drawing. So those are going to be under G, match line. Okay, so I'm going to freeze those. So that, then we've got the alignment. So basically there's going to be some things that we can preset in this template and turn off before we run it. And I just forgot to go fully through that process, which is always good, a good reminder when it doesn't look the way that you want to after you plot it. But basically that's the process to use so that we end up with a sheet that looks like this with our stationing. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on the overall folder setup or files that have been pre-created, or where to find those? And I can send,
Um,
yeah.
no, I think it's pretty clear to me. I wanted to ask the guys, Jesse, if it was
Mm-hmm.
okay with you in
Yep.
Spanish. Um, bueno, yo les había escrito ahí por WhatsApp, pero sí que si tienen alguna pregunta, creo que esto igual ya lo habían visto en otro entrenamiento, pero pues si tienen alguna pregunta o algo, aprovechemos que está Jesse. Y lo otro es, como les había mencionado, este es un proyecto que inicialmente va a empezar Oscar, pero es probable que todos en algún momento estemos trabajando en este proyecto porque es un proyecto que va a tener 12 paquetes. Entonces, pues van a haber muchas otras personas que se unan al proyecto a medida que inicie. Entonces, si tienen alguna duda o pregunta de la estructura de cómo organizaron los archivos o si o con respecto a la creación de las hojas, pues hablen ahora o callen para siempre. No, pues hablamos con Jessy cuando sea el momento. Igual Jessy va a dejar grabada esta capacitación también, porque pues ella le puso ahí record, entonces pues también la pueden descargar. Okay, Jessy, I think you can go ahead.
Okay. So basically, I'm going to fix the template setup so that you guys can use it because it was missing a few things when I ran it. But, and I'll probably go back and go ahead and delete these sheets since these are completely made up based on that force main that I made up. But just basically showing you guys a way to go through the process faster. And we also have a reference template. I'm sorry, a reference manager tool to help repathing XREFs if we need to do that on a global scale as well. So, so we have some tools to help with that. So I will basically start setting up the rest of these packages. I don't think, Lizette, that they identified the next package, but I can at least get, the blank drawing and folder setup created for the rest of them. Then we'll just start populating them as we find out what's next. But work package F will be ready
Mhm.
once I get done with the template sheet cut. So,
Okay. Can they, I know Terry was tasked to getting the details going.
mhm,
I'm a bit concerned, and I saw your email about it, so thank you about that. About him working on his local drive.
mhm.
Um, but you made it clear that he needs to work on ACC, so hopefully that will be the case. Um, and it seems to me from your email that he can start working on those details um, through that 000, right? Something like that.
Yes, yeah. Everybody could use that 000 um, drawing. So either you
Mm-hmm.
could use this or you can use the sheet cut template if you want to use plain production tools. So
Gotcha.
um, I'm going to put that in here too, so that it's clear what we're using that for. But basically, this sheet is ready to be opened and do a save as. Um,
Okay,
I
perfect.
I don't know if we know the full naming convention, so I'm going to try to get that nailed down today.
Okay,
And so I'll put a preliminary sheet list in the same location as well so that we know what we're naming these sheets.
gotcha.
So I just have to get, the project manager to give us the okay on it. And I want to use the example set that they provided. Try to follow this, but this one's a little bit different. And I don't think that's gonna I think instead of having a 1 here, we'll use this character and then we'll use our
Uh-huh.
regular naming convention. So, but I'll get that ironed out as well. And I'll just put it in this chat and send like everything's ready to go. Here's our sheet list. Here's plain production tools. Here's where the template is, and just put it all into this chat.
Okay, great. That works.
Okay.
Thank you, Jessie.
Yeah. And then feel free to ask any questions as you're going through it.
Absolutely. Will do.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.